Good evening, everybody. I'm Grim Reaper, and with me tonight is,
Just me. It's Perrythepig.
and we've got a special guest tonight. We've got Mr. Flintler on here, who I'm actually excited to have because I didn't think this would ever going to happen because I've asked him a few times in the past, and he was too busy. So having him on tonight is a special treat for me. Flintler, thank you so much for coming on the podcast tonight. How are
Happy
you
to be
doing,
here.
man?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
So we have a lot of content to talk about tonight, guys.
Oh my goodness.
So I want to just start off with the one thing that I'm most excited about, and tell me how you guys feel about it. But the Glyph of Despair. Did anybody else think that was just absolutely neat?
I want to pause it. I totally want to veto this because I know that one of the stated purposes of the podcast is to talk about all the new exciting dev posts that come out. But we also need to make sure the Twitch chat and the people on Spotify and the people on YouTube know who Flintler is. So just in case someone out there is not a frequent member of Flintler's Twitch chat, Flintler, who are you?
How do you say that? I'm Flint. How do you say who you are? I stream as a hobby. It's nice to chill in the evenings, play, relax, have fun. I like experimenting with builds rather than pushing them in deep end game. That's kind of my thing.
So you do a lot of experimentation. I know you play a lot of primalist builds, and I give you flack for it constantly. And so we're gonna talk about the Druid stuff as well, kind of get your feedback on it and what you're looking forward to and not looking forward to. What can people expect if they find you on YouTube or they find you on Twitch and they tune in for the first time?
You can probably expect me to be listening to something eccentric, making jokes as many times as I can, and only getting a couple chuckles. No, I just like to have a place where people can hang out and have fun, chatting back and forth. I'll be most of the time playing in one of the tournaments that Vision's hosting, or working on some pet project build, see if it'll work.
Okay, and then one more question for you. How often do you actually play Tempest Strike?
Are we still recording? Can I leave yet?
Got him.
Let's see. Legitimate answer. I have tried to play Tempest Strike probably 3 or 4 times. And most recently being at the release of 8.4, where I started a solo self-found shaman and played up until, maybe midway through Monoliths, and I just said, this is just so much worse than actually casting a spell.
So if you're already playing an 8.4, that's a great segue for us. How are the crafting changes?
Oh my goodness. I said it.
Living in the future.
I'm actually a community tester, and I wasn't supposed to reveal that.
Oh no,
man.
So we just found out about 3 hours before the beginning of this podcast, we found a new piece of information that the devs released, and this is the crafting update. So the crafting changes coming with the Eternal Legends update in 0.8.4, which is December 10th, 2021, coming up in just a few weeks here. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. Now that we're done with the intro and finding out who Flintler is, Grim, what do you want to talk about first?
That Glyph of Despair, man.
It looks good, doesn't it?
What do you guys think? Yes. Did you guys read, though, where it says that it can change any item into a different item of that same type? So even if it's a pair of boots and you're trying to get like a specific unique on it, it can change it into a different unique type of that boot.
Well, I think you got the wrong.
I think that's the wrong one, isn't it?
Item.
No, it should be the Glyph of Despair, if I remember.
Glyph of Despair is for sealing a
affix. Oh, no. That's for sealing. It's the other one. The other one that turns them into uniques.
The Ascendants.
The Ascendants one. Sorry, I had it backwards. Sorry, I just read them like 10 minutes ago, so I got them mixed up. But that one looked definitely awesome. So what did you think about it, Flintler? Have you had time to look at that one?
All right. Yeah, now you're talking about the Ascendants or the Despair?
Yes, the Ascendants.
The Ascendants is cool. I think it's we lost the ability to game. I'm gonna steal Perry's. You let me talk first instead of Perry. So
no, go ahead.
Perry said on stream earlier. They took our ability to gamble uniques away, and so this is a nice way of putting that back in the game. And if depending on how rare the Ascendants shard is, rune, glyph, whichever it is,
rune.
It's a rune of Ascendants. Depending on how rare that is, then I think it'll be a nice. Oh man, I found this let's go see if I can get those gloves, or let's see if I can get an Orion's eye,
Or more realistically, oh yes, I finally finished buying 1,000 of these from the marketplace. Now I can make my YouTube video.
Okay, now
where I
who's
just
living
click
in the
1,000
future?
times. Yeah.
Talking about bazaar and economy.
Listen, I played a lot of Path of Exile. I used to be a member of the Path of Exile community. I've seen all the YouTube videos of people of like, I clicked 20,000 times and I only got one headhunter. I'm waiting for it. It'll happen. It'll happen. Do you think
If
that
it
you can
doesn't
get
happen,
boss
you'll make it
specific
happen,
drops?
I'm sure. Oh.
Does Ravenous Void count as a boss drop? Because it doesn't, but it also kind of does.
Well, I mean, I found it in just Spirit of Fire, so,
I'm not
Not-
convinced
not
that
off the
item
boss.
actually drops. I was saying earlier today, I'm pretty sure that like Bastion of Honor is the best item in the game. And someone's like, oh, it's the second best item. It's like, no, it's the best because Ravenous Void doesn't actually drop. Like, I've never seen it. Okay, well, technically I have, but like, come on. It's
Don't
so...
you have like 3 pairs? Don't you have like 3 pairs, Perry?
I've got 1 pair, and I found it the second day of the new patch. Thank you very much. All right, so we can talk about the Rune of... God, what's the other one here? There's so many new things.
The despair one. The despair.
Before we
one's
move
still-
on, I
Yeah,
don't
go ahead.
think we're going to be able to get boss drops from the Rune of Ascendance.
I
I'd be
hope
very
not.
surprised if they take away the target farm of boss drops and allow you to get
genuinely
them with
hope
the Rune of
not.
Ascendance.
One of the changes that happened recently in Path of Exile, if you're familiar with the game, is they took all the boss drops and they made them part of the core drop pool. So you could just like be killing some random white monsters and you would drop like, I don't know Path of Exile items anymore, but you drop some boss item and it's like, it's very strange. There's a lot of pushback. It's like, sometimes it's a good thing for itemization. Sometimes it's a bad thing because like you don't have a chase item anymore, but I was kind of against it at the time. In a similar way, I would be against that in last Epoch. I don't want boss drops to be normal items that just drop from monsters.
Right.
All
I
right,
agree
we
with
have
that sentiment.
plenty of runes and glyphs to talk about. I'm scrolling up and down. Let's see. There's Glyph of Chaos. There's
We can talk about the despair one now with the seal.
Yeah,
'cause
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
do want to talk about with that one because I've already envisioned your gear at one of these tournaments, and I'm pretty sure, Perry, you're going to have a ton of neat stuff. Because I bet you probably going to be one of the guys to find that one on a constant basis during the tournaments.
So I'm going to keep talking about Path of Exile because Path of Exile has a ton of crafting options and a lot of people are already familiar with that game. So Glyph of Despair, the TLDR of this thing is it's going to allow you to maybe fracture one of your modifiers. So what does fracture mean? In last Epoch, fracture means that your item's done, it's corrupted, you can no longer craft on it. In Path of Exile, fracture means something different. It came from Synthesis League, it was a long time ago. It basically means that one modifier gets locked in place, and no matter what else you do to the item, you cannot unlock that fractured modifier. So in a similar way, what a Glyph of Despair is going to do in last Epoch is you will use a Glyph of Despair when you're trying to get something from tier 3 to tier 4, and it has a chance of going up, or it has a chance of locking. And if it locks, it will not count as one of your 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes. So it kind of becomes like an implicit, if you want to think about it like that. So Flintler, you were hanging out in my Twitch chat. You already said something really good about this. Because you can't get tier 5 modifiers to seal.
You have to be able to upgrade the affix and use the glyph while upgrading to seal it. So no +2 skills on your helms, your relics, your chests. I guess no 3% block if you're into that on your block and block effectiveness, rings and gloves.
But some of those modifiers, I'm thinking about this now. Some of the modifiers that are like pretty good at tier 2 or pretty good at like Hybrid Life is great at tier 3. You don't really need tier 4, tier 5. Block Chance is great at tier 2. Like Elemental Penetration, Void Penetration, Necrotic Penetration. Those penetration modifiers, they roll like 3 or 4 or 5%. They don't scale particularly well with tiers, but just having that locked in there, that could be pretty good. So locking something, locking cleanse on your belt, and then getting room for a new modifier, that seems super reasonable.
That's OP.
Although the prefixes on belts are not particularly exciting.
Just get more damage or something.
A little bit of damage.
Listen,
Still be
I
nice
haven't
to have
played
that OP
builds.
slot.
I haven't played builds that are like, oh, I've got enough damage. Like, no, I would like some more damage. That'd be fine.
Now, what they
would
didn't
still-
mention, I don't think they mentioned if they're specifically can only have one sealed affix or not. And I hadn't thought of this before, because it says it moves to its own location, but could you have a sealed prefix and a sealed suffix? Has that been
Do we have any
deconfirmed?
devs in chat real quick? Give me a dev check? I don't know, maybe. I doubt it, but like, I don't know, maybe.
That would
I'm getting
actually be really
told
nice.
only one sealed modifier, so maybe that's the case.
All right. I think minion health, as their example shows, is probably the strongest use case for it.
Get out of here. Okay, so let's. they're like, look at these great new crafting options. It'll make the following archetypes finally playable.
This is the most boring
Minions.
item they could have shown. Strength, attunement, resist, minion health.
Oh, you got minion health too? This is the item that Flintler is gonna screen capture and send to me in Discord. He's like, yo, look at my item.
Check what I just sealed.
We finally popped off. Look what we got.
Minion bleachings. All right, let's go.
All
But
right.
now here's
so,
another idea on this too.
Yeah.
Like, after you seal it, you can't put that same modifier back on there again, right? It says on there you can't put the same one, correct?
I would be very surprised if you can.
That's an excellent
Scrolling
question.
down and looking at
Because
it.
I would like to have like percent health, hybrid health on a belt suffix. That'd be pretty good.
Oh, you could, even if you can't, you could still do percent hybrid and flat.
Yeah, that's a great observation too, right? Just get like as much life as possible.
That's real exciting too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still lamenting protections. I'll get over it eventually.
All right, so we could go through this entire post and talk about every single one of them. There's at least one more rune / glyph that I want to make sure we touch on before we go anywhere else. I want to mention it's called a Rune of Creation. And this can let you take one of your OP insane rings and make a copy of it. So you can have one ring on both of your hands. Which is probably not the best thing that you can do with it, but it's basically a mirror of Calandra. So we don't know how rare this is going to be. We don't even know the use case for it. The devs have said in this dev post, there will be another use that becomes more clear in the run up to 084. Maybe the Rune of Creation, this mirror of Calandra type rune, maybe it has something to do with legendary items as well. But like, man, duping items is always like, my eyebrows go up and they can't come back down.
I think the really interesting limitation on this, though, is that it reduces the craftability down to 0. The hammer juice, the crafting juice, whatever you want to call it.
The crafting juice.
So even if you wanted to, like in PoE, you set up a mirror service, right? You can't do that with Rune of Creation. If you dupe something once, you can't dupe it again.
That's a good point. Wait, can you dupe it again?
It says it reduces the foraging potential.
So you can't find any more grapes, any more berries, nothing else, right?
No nuts.
But yeah, we don't technically know whether you could use this multiple times. But yeah, in Path of Exile, good observation. Like once you mirror an item once, you can still keep working on the initial copy of it. You just can't do anything to the mirrored copy. So we don't know exactly what the limitations are going to be, but that'll be something to look out for. Also, as soon as you find one of these, you got to start thinking about what the abuse cases are, right? Like, what's the best thing you can do with this? What kind of bugs should you check for early and often?
I've got it. You can have 2 captain's rings on one solo self-found character.
Stop it. That's like 200 stun avoidance. What? Listen, I only found out like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that a captain's ring is even something in this game. But like, great. Yup. Can't wait.
You didn't know that?
No, nobody told me. Listen, I just found out that volatile reversal stacks. Like if you hit a monster once or hit a monster twice, you can get like double the debuffs. There's so many things that I don't know about this game.
If
even
you keep
though I've been
talking
playing,
about it, it's going to get nerfed.
Well, I want that nerf. I want the game to work however the devs want the game to work. Like if it's not matching their vision, yeah, change it. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So in the hope of not talking exclusively about the crafting changes, I also want to touch on something that I don't know if you're known for this, Flintler, but it's what I know you for. And that's primalist builds.
Yes.
Because I try as often as possible not to play primalist, and it seems like you're just on the other side of the spectrum. Like you love it, don't you?
Yeah, it's kind of a Stockholm syndrome a little bit, but I really do. Thematically, the primalist and specifically the shaman is my favorite, and it's hard for me to get away from that. I enjoy playing the other classes outside of like necromancer is probably my least favorite, but primalist is one that I just always keep coming back to and trying to make things work, and that's my main problem. Things just don't end up working or being as strong as I want them to be.
It's just so much copium. Oh man, I hope it works this time.
So maybe Tempest Strike will feel good even though it doesn't have attack speed. Maybe now that it has 100% penetration, I'll do. Still feels like a wet noodle.
So we have some important changes coming up. So in 084 on December 10th, we have the Druid update, which, while not Shaman, should hopefully bring a breath of fresh air to like the entire Primalist starting class. I want to know like what's something that you're looking forward to messing around with, and what's something that still doesn't sound quite right to you. Give me like a plus and a minus.
For Druid specifically?
The whole Primalist class.
The thing I'm most excited for is Upheaval Totems. Because the first build I'm going to try out is Shaman with 5 totems. There's been a bug with the Warcry totem where it doesn't get the totem tag, and so it doesn't scale with specific totem stats, but they're aware of it. Hopefully it'll be fixed, and we'll have Warcry, Upheaval, Thorn, Storm, and Frenzy totems, and I really want to try that out. So I'm really looking forward to Upheaval totems. I'm really looking forward to trying out Shattering totems, like dropping your Upheaval totem behind you, throwing down 5 Thorn totems in front of you, and your Upheaval totem is going to be attacking the mobs near your Thorn totems, and your Thorn totems are going to explode because there's the node they've showed off in Upheaval that will make, if Upheaval hits your totems, they shatter, dealing damage around them. So that's the plus. Those are the things I'm most excited for. And then the thing I'm least excited about is that my shaman can now not, even though they allowed Entangling Roots to buff minions and totems, my shaman cannot ever use Entangling Roots.
Because Entangling Roots is going to be locked behind Druid now, right?
Right. It's going to be a 30-point skill, I believe. But we can still do Spriggan form as a shaman, and then you can cast Entangling Roots when you're at max stacks of Veil Spirits, right? When you cast Thorn Shield, I think is what it is, something like that. So the shaman can still cast it, but it can't be specialized. All right, there we go.
Perfect. I can't wait to find out how that's going to be relevant. It'll be a good time. I know it's something you've talked about a lot in the past. Like you actually introduced this to me for the first time. I thought that you had to heavily spec into Entangling Roots in order to make it good, in order to make it have like any sort of CC. But like it seems like all the specs just make it more usable. Like it kind of reduces the mana cost, makes the cast speed, whatever. But
makes it bigger.
The default functionality of Entangling Roots right now in our current patch is nuts. Like without even
it's a nice 90-95% snare.
What on earth?
The only thing it doesn't slow down are dashes, like the big scarabs or zealots, things like that.
But, the things that actually kill you.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
you know. But it'll save you from all the things like worms. They'll never touch you.
What's a
Just
worm?
Put down roots. A maggot. Excuse me. Avoid maggot.
Sure. It's like, man, I haven't seen a frost worm in the longest time.
Not why. That type of worm.
Oh, sure. I got you. All right. So we know a couple of things what's going on. What about what do I have written down here? I wrote down Swarmblade, which took me a long time to figure out what it's actually called, because I've been calling it Swarm Lord, Swarm Daddy, Moth King, King Bee. Been calling it everything other than
Scyther,
Scyther form, Kha'Zix form, depending on what games you played in the past.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I want it to be great. I think my favorite skill that they showed off is the Locust Hives. I'm really interested in the minion build with the Swarm Lord and Spriggan Form combo. I'm a little concerned it'll feel too much like Rogue with Shift and Shadow Cascade, essentially.
Where like just in terms of like damage output or playability or like not quite being good enough.
Playstyle in general, feeling like you're playing a rogue, because the dash is very similar to Shift, although it does have an attack on it, and then it's what's Locust Swarm? What do they call it? The spin attack that brings your locusts around you is like a bigger version of Shadow Cascade. I think it's just visually those abilities do not look much different from things that are already in the game.
So you're just looking for things to like feel thematically different between classes.
Correct.
I gotcha. What about if they end up scaling the same way? Like, is that a point of contention for you?
What do you mean by that?
I guess like actually building out the characters, like needing the attack or cast speed, needing like the flat damage, like I don't know, like
that's fair. Like Shadow Cascade, most of the time you're not building attack speed because you're just proccing it off Shift. So I think it will still end up feeling different from how you gear your character, how you end up playing it. You'll want attack speed on Swarm Lord, I'm sure.
It reminds me of something from Path of Exile, where, and like again, yeah, I'm gonna make a lot of comparisons, where the more toward endgame you get, the builds kind of homogenize because they all kind of feel the same. So like whether the components of the build are different, like whether you've actually built it out differently, the playing, like the play pattern, like the buttons you're clicking, how quickly you're killing packs of monsters or clearing monoliths, kind of feels the same after that.
Wait, do people actually run maps and stuff? I just stop after I make my Path of Building character. I don't understand.
It's a valid point. I love POB, but yeah, it's kind of a question about like build homogenization, whether it like plays different or whether it's only just something that is technically different on the back end, but like it just plays the same. I don't know. It's something that's on my mind whenever I think about skills like that.
I'm not super worried. They talked about Werebear interacting with like 9 different skills, and from what we've seen, Swarmblade is already interacting with several. It's going to have Tornado on every third cast. It's got Serpent Strike on its basic melee. You know, I assume that it's going to have additional interactions, so I'm not worried about it feeling too similar, which is in direct contrast to what I said earlier.
Perfect. That's what the podcast is all about. So speaking of things that feel similar, maybe they're mechanically different, we can kind of segue to something that you spend a lot of time on, and something I spend my time on too, which is the vision tournaments that happen on the weekends. So I would like maybe I don't know if you're dead yet. I know the tournament's over at this point because it's Tuesday afternoon. How was your totally meta, super normal Ice Barrage Spellblade character?
Who doesn't play Spell Surge?
What?
I don't. It's honestly, jokes aside, I found the build very fun to play. When I was still going crit damage, Ice Barrage was feeling great. The range you get from it, the safety from like clearing things ahead of you in monos, and then in arena being able to just pick a corner and hit things while gaining mana with Mana Strike at range, it felt great. I tried to swap to Bastion of Honor when it dropped, and my damage tanked, and that actually got me killed in arena. So I didn't make it as far as I wanted, but probably a B tier build. A lot of fun though.
It's okay. You did better than I did. I died off stream. I got to like level 92 or something, and then died to like a diamond matron who was hiding our Johnny from me during one of my
Grim,
models.
what's the secret? This was the first time we had no bans and meta skill picks, and everyone died and failed. Grim, can you tell us? Were you out there grim reaping people behind the scenes?
No, I was busy working, so no, there was no grim reaping going on, man. So I haven't even got to participate in one. I think they got one coming up this weekend though, right? Another tournament?
We do. We have one more rogue tournament going on, and then I suspect we'll probably pause the tournaments for a bit, waiting for the new patch to come out. We got one more hardcore to go.
I'll be playing.
Maybe we can convince Vision to do a masochist tournament for fun before the patch.
I don't hate it.
Oh, that would be fun.
Softcore, not hardcore. No thanks.
Softcore masochist?
Can you do
just,
softcore masochist?
You just smash your face into the wall over and over. Yeah. You sound way more into that than I ever would. But yeah, it sounds like a good time. But speaking of like why people are dying all the time, I think it's just mage. So it's funny, mage has a huge defensive bonus with Flame Ward, one of the best defensive abilities in the entire game. But like when it's down, you're just dead. You know, you don't really have anything else beyond that.
You got Snap Freeze. Who doesn't put Snap Freeze on their bar in meta builds?
Like 99% of people don't run Snap Freeze on their builds.
Hey, Mao runs Snap Freeze, and he's the meta king.
Okay. According to some Reddit posts recently, Acolyte is one of the least popular starting classes, despite having the Lich King there. So maybe it's not quite the meta that it used to be.
Well, those nerfs,
it's seen some big nerfs.
Yeah, that's what did it in, was those nerfs. But Mao seemed to make his character work pretty good with some of the changes and everything, and the new items. Doing okay with it. But I think he's still crit though, isn't he? Still a crit build.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, once you look at something like what's the Marina wand called? Marina's Lost something. Like that item is absolutely insane. Like why wouldn't you be crit? Like your other offensive options are like necrotic damage over time or poison damage over time. It's like they pale in comparison to crit. So we'll see whether something like that happens with new classes too. So like one of the most recent new skills that we received was Static Orb. And there was kind of some contention with the weekend tournaments, and Vision was talking about this for a long time too, which is like, do you ban something on the hardcore tournaments, or do you just let people play the most popular skills? So Ellie Nova, for as long as I've been part of the last Epoch community, has been banned over and over and over and over and over, because if Ellie Nova's unbanned, everyone's gonna play it, someone's gonna get an Ashen Crown, and they'll just be the rank 1 person. They just automatically win. But it wasn't banned this time, and I feel like nobody played it. Everyone's playing Static Orb. Like, Static Orb's very good at kiting. When you throw in the Chapter 9 monsters, like, you can't just stand there and hope for the, what are they called? The Acolytes or something? You can't just hope for them not to run on top of you and kill you.
I think part of that is, like you said, you need the Ashen Crown. Otherwise, you have to activate the Flame Nova, and then you can't take full advantage of Shock. And you're not going to play melee, because why would you want to play? Anyway.
What?
I don't think Nova is a very popular skill. It's just a very strong skill at endgame.
So, I'm feeling called out. Who would play melee non-Ashen Crown Ellie Nova? So I tried it.
I didn't even know.
I wanted to try out the Invoker set at the recommendation of somebody in chat. And the Invoker set gives you +1 fire, +1 lightning, and +1 cold skills. So if you just activate all 3 of them, and then all of a sudden you can just you don't need. All right, so it's a much bigger brain idea. Let's explain the whole thing. So we wanted to be an Invoker set because we wanted +3. So we wanted all 3 elements, but we also wanted to be like maybe melee, but specifically non-channeled. Because if you don't go channeled, then you can just cast it over and over, which means you can use my favorite item, the Twisted Heart of Ukeros.
Twisty boy.
So like, what if you go cast speed and the Invoker set has cast speed on it, and then you just spam Ellie Nova in melee range with a Bastion on because you're melee, and all of a sudden it's a Flintler build. It's just it was very bad. 0 out of 10. I would not recommend it to you.
I'm trying to see, what does the plus level to Nova share a slot with the Invoker set?
No, plus level of Nova is on your helmet.
Well, there you go.
So you could just have like level 27 or something. And then Twisted Heart, level 28. Yeah, sure.
And an Omnis?
Yeah. Wait, no, you can't use Omnis. Omnis is actually not very good, as it turns out. When you compare it to something like the Invoker set, Invoker just blows it out of the water.
I'm more curious of how Tri-Element Nova would work with the Gaspar set. So you could, each cast could proc all 3 versions of the Void, whatever it's called.
Doesn't the Gaspar set have like a 4-second cooldown on it?
Each. 'Cause it's
Each?
different procs.
Great.
So now
Man,
you get 3
whenever we
procs per
have
4 seconds.
whenever we have anything in Last Epoch that has a 4 or 5 second cooldown, it just feels like garbage. It feels really bad. Like, just give me a 1 second cooldown. Give me a 0.5 second. Give me something that I can actually build around, actually use. But like, the Gaspar set is sweet. It is very cool, but like, I'm never going to use that thing. Give me a break. We talked about the two-handed sword. What's the thing called? It drops from Lagan.
Alluvian.
Alluvian. It's like the two-handed sword that you can use with skills like Void Cleave, that have like weapon type requirements to them, but it actually has adaptive spell damage. Like, there's some reasons to use weapons like that when they fill like weird niches, but like, building around the cooldowns is cool. It's interesting. It really makes me want to play new builds, but not when they have 4 second cooldowns. Ugh.
Do you think speaking of that and speaking of mage, do you think they'll ever rework the base mage passives so that we don't have 3 passives that everyone ignores because of 10-second cooldowns?
I hope so. Isn't it a 6 second cooldown?
I'm just checking. 8-second cooldown on the lightning one.
Great.
And an 8-second cooldown on the fire one.
Great. Can't wait.
Oh man.
This is old. Mage is fun. I like mage, but like, yeah, the passives are very boring. They could be so much more interesting, right?
I think Rune Master's gonna really open that up.
We'll see.
Because we don't have much synergy between the two right now.
When you're looking at a mastery class and you're always taking the same masteries, like, that's not a choice. And when you don't have a choice, it's boring. Like, there's a lot of options there, but like, you're never ever gonna click those. Like, if there were a reason to, that'd be great, but they're just not strong.
I don't know. You guys got my head thinking about that Gaspar set now. I think I might have to try that out.
No.
I don't play mage a whole lot, but it does sound kind of interesting with all the procs going.
We can just theory craft a build
procs.
on stream, right? That's
Right
that's
now?
the podcast.
Is that
See
going to
how
be
this
good for the Spotify listeners? We'll just describe it to them. All right, now I'll click on this. All right, what's the next topic? What are we talking about?
I think we should talk about that glyph, the Rune of Discovery. I mean,
Ooh.
that's very interesting that it
I'm
can
really
put
hoping it's not
every
too
open
rare.
slot in one. Well, it's, if you read what it says though, it gives every single slot tier 1 affix or suffix, but it says it has a higher chance to roll a rare one on it too. So you could also use that for two dual purposes. Risk it on an open item and see if you get a nice good rare that you can break it down if you need crafting materials whenever these tournaments are going on. Or 2, just luck out and put it on there and then just keep looking for those runes and trying to break it down and craft on that piece.
Yeah, hopefully the Rune of Discovery is not rare. It seems like a Rune of Discovery is kind of close to. Twitch chat might need to help me. What's the name of the Orb of Binding? Look at that on my own Twitch chat. So an Orb of Binding is a Path of Exile thing. It takes like a normal white base item, it 4 links it in Path of Exile, and then it also rolls it to be a rare, right? So it's something that like doesn't really have much use later in the game, but early in the game, the first 20, first 30 levels or so, it's really nice. Like, you could use a Rune of Discovery. Maybe you have like your loot filter set up to show you, let's say you're playing a throwing build and you really want the minus mana cost throwing affix. So any item that has the minus mana cost stuff on it, that's really the only thing you care about. You grab that, you slap a Rune of Discovery on it, maybe hits strength, maybe hits life, maybe it hits throwing attack speed or dexterity. But as long as it hits something, it's going to be usable. So in that way, yeah, I hope that these drop super commonly at low levels.
You know what I thought of?
Go ahead.
These new runes and glyphs would make great side quest rewards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right
they would.
now, outside of, and we're going to get more acts, so there's going to be more places for more side quests. I'm sure that the unlocking of idols is going to shift around. And if you could get like, you know how, is it Gaspar or who is it in the council chambers that drops you your 2 idols, your first 2 idols?
Yeah.
If you could get like 2 runes of discovery early on so that on a new character or solo self found, you could be like, okay, I'm going to grab this base item and slam it and get some resistances or something. I think that would be a really nice addition to the early game.
That's a good point. The gas bar early on with the idols, is that the only instance of getting an item as a quest reward? Okay, there's the unique item. There's like the gambler's fallacy, sure,
Right.
but like anything else, I don't think there is.
I'm not thinking of anything.
I like it. All right, sign me up. I'll do it.
All right, I'll make a suggestion post.
I would like to mirror my items as soon as I get to level 50. If I could just have a Rune of Creation, please, that'd be fantastic.
Now, do you think if legendaries are tied to crafting and that is somehow tied to eternity caches, this is my assumption, this is speculation, and those are tied to dungeons, do you think dungeons will be part of the progression the devs present to us and will give us any example items? Like when they first present you with crafting, they're like, or with idols, they give you some idols. When you first present with crafting, it's like, okay, now you can start crafting. Are they going to like give you any starter crumbs for the legendary or eternity cache setup?
Huh.
Where's that going to fit into the progression, the dungeons? I'm real curious of how. Is it going to be, you unlock dungeons and the Monolith of Fate at the same time? Or is it?
You could get like a baby legendary item out of it, sure. Yeah.
One FX legendary, yeah.
Or could it also be part of their alternative leveling system too, with having dungeons where you can just run them to level up?
I cannot wait for the alternative leveling.
That leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I hated running bounties in Diablo 3 to level up so much.
Do you not like alternative leveling?
If this game had normal, cruel, and merciless, I would play it and love it. I like the campaign a lot. So
how do you feel about normal monoliths?
I think they're a great proving ground for is my build functioning, is my kit functioning. I think what's been stated before by you and other people is that once you get to and past Reign of Dragons, there's a huge slump until you get to Empowered Monolith.
Where it's just a little
bit too long. The first few timelines, I really like how it feels of like, okay, I'm no longer in the tutorial campaign. I'm now out in the real world and my kit's actually working. Okay, I got level 75. I got my level 20 skills. Everything's coming together. I like that feeling. And the way Monolith presents that, I think, is okay until about Reign of Dragons and after.
As long as you agree with me, that's good. Good. All right, excellent. Yeah,
that's scary. Okay, all right. Notes. So, taking notes. Do not disagree.
So like level 75 to like level 81 or 82, like when you finish your 3 level 90 monoliths, like you start walking into Empower monoliths. Yeah, big slump there. So that's my biggest complaint. Like I died this past weekend during the hardcore tournament. I got to like level 92 or so. I had like maybe a day and a half left where I could level a new character. And I was like, you know what? I can't just do level 90 monoliths again. I don't want to do normal monos. If I could do the campaign and then do something else and then get to empowered monoliths, I'd be very happy. But just the idea of walking through that again kind of burnt me out. I'll just do something else instead.
I think that they would have to do it very carefully. What I would hate to see is that, okay, we have 2 choices, but the alternative leveling style is far superior for time. Because the most common complaint I see about people who don't want to run through campaign is not even just in this game, but campaigns in general in ARPGs is, it takes so long to run through and unlock everything. And in this game, that would be your idle slots. And then if they present an alternative mode that is faster to do that, then it's not really, it's just the new mode to do it in.
But you said you kind of like the campaign of Last Epoch, and I'm with you. I like, go here, talk to this person, go here, do that. And like, you're always moving in the same direction, or I guess you're always moving in a new direction, right? But
I like optimizing how I run through the same set maps.
Yeah. Right? And monoliths, on the other hand, it's like the same tile set over and over and over and over and over. Currently in Last Epoch, I like the campaign a lot more. If the campaign just got me to level 80, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be okay.
I think we'll get closer to that.
You think so?
When we get, well, we're getting 3 more acts, right? We should be getting 12 acts as far as what my forum lurking has,
I guess, yeah,
put in
10,
my
11,
brain.
12. We might even be like level 70 or something by the time we walk out of there, depending on how that works out. I don't mind it. Interesting.
If anything, all they would need to do to then adjust how monoliths feel is make you require less stability for the later monoliths. So if you start monoliths at a higher level, then you can get through each timeline faster to get to empowereds or something.
Done. Sign me up. I love it. All right.
Why can't we be the developers?
Why?
We'll make the game that
I have all the great ideas. Yeah, excellent. Flintler, I gotta go off topic for just a second here. I feel like you've been biting your tongue for such a long time. You told me that you wanted to try so hard not to make off-color jokes. You're doing great, Flint. You're being so polite. You're like, oh yes, here's how we can develop the game in a better way.
I can code switch. You know, I worked in a professional environment for years. I can.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, great. It's just like super funny. All right. What else do we got? Did someone say off-color jokes? Twitch chat, stop it. We're not talking about that. What else do we have? I do want to call out one more thing. I keep paging up and down the developer notes that we got today about the crafting changes. Honestly, I wasn't expecting these dev changes or these crafting changes to come out today, which is, I'm totally blindsided by them. They're really, really good. I'd love to say,
I want to take credit. I went into the Last Epoch official Discord, into their little Ask the Devs non-support kind of stuff, and I said, Tuesday News Day? And then Judd responded with a yeah. So it was me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I brought on the news post at least a day early.
I do want to share my opinion about why these crafting changes are so good. There are some like really specific examples that you can call out. There's a lot of cool, exciting stuff, but I want to point to something at the very beginning of the post that they had there. So in the crafting update, they started their post with 2 things. They called out 4 positives that they want to preserve in the crafting system. And they also called out 3 negatives about the current crafting system, what they wanted to remove. I feel as though the positives and negatives that they called out in the beginning of their post are excellent. These aren't things that are just like superficial acknowledgments about how the current crafting system works. This feels like something that has sat down for a long time, listened to a lot of complaints and a lot of compliments, and try to like dig into what people are saying about their crafting system and try to like, I guess maybe optimize it from there. I'm really impressed by it. That's what I'm trying to say. The fact that they're talking about like human psychology, it's something that I talk about on stream a little bit as well. Just saying like, it's really easy to hope that things go well. Maybe like a survivorship bias, maybe like a personal exceptionalism, like, you know, hitting an 80% craft where it's 80% chance to succeed, hitting that 3 times in a row is kind of unlikely, even though your Neanderthal brain tells you that, yes, this should work. It's going to work for me. It's not going to fail at all. I'm only unlucky if it fails. But like the perception of luck is, I guess they're the like a bullet point about the perception of luck and then a couple sub bullet points as well. But calling that out, I'm impressed by it. They did a good job talking about the things that work well and really the things that don't work well.
It put a lot of, when the words crafting changes come at the top of a forum post, it's a little scary, and it put a lot of those fears at ease immediately. Like, okay, they're being transparent about what and why, and I can agree with the direction they're talking about. I agree. It was really great.
And we're all in agreement. Excellent. Yeah, just keep agreeing with me. That's good. So a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody else on the podcast. We had Quiet For Me, who is the originator of the Legacy of the Quiet Forest belt and also Ravenous Void, the gloves that might not actually exist in this video game. So he had an opinion that he shared with me, and I was kind of like, maybe like halfway into where I am right now in Last Epoch. Like I've been playing for a few months, whatnot, but he shared something with me on the podcast that really highlighted something about about how it feels to be onboarded to Last Epoch. And that is crafting feels really good when you're a new player. Like it feels great for the first 40 levels. It feels great for the first 200 hours, maybe 250 hours. But as you sink more and more time into Last Epoch, the current crafting system is like, it flakes out really fast because there's really not much crafting. There's not much to do there.
I almost disagree. I know that I don't push endgame as much as a lot of players do, but for me, I have the idea of this would be great if it works out. Anytime I try to craft something, and I'm hedging my bets every time. You think that's a bad thing, but what I mean is, I feel lucky if it works out, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, I expected that if it doesn't.
So set your expectations super low, and you'll never be disappointed. Is that
all right? Maybe there's
a
a problem. Okay. If you say it,
so speaking of the psychological perspective of the
I have to
days,
jump through hoops to rationalize how much enjoyment I'm getting out of a system. Maybe there's a problem.
Just don't be excited, and you'll have a great time. Okay. So what can you expect when you go to Flintler's Twitch channel? Just, very bare minimum level of building Primalist. Maybe this will work, but I don't expect it to.
I got vitality and strength on this chest, guys. Look. Whoa.
And then you can fracture. Oh wait, what's the new word for it? Is it seal? You can seal minion life, and then you can also have like minion damage on it. I'm excited for you, Flintler. I think you're really gonna pop off in this next patch.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
The problem is, here's the truth. The true reason I play Primalist is because it's the least popular. And if it becomes popular because of Druid, then what am I going to do?
Play Shaman. It's like
right,
easy answer
right.
for you.
Thank you.
They've
become
said,
a necromane. No.
they've said that they want to do some Shaman updates as well. So I'm kind of expecting Shaman to be touched during the December patch. What was it they were talking about? I think they were talking about. God, do I even want to put the hope in you? I think they were talking about Tempest Strike and touching that.
I've written it off.
Oh.
They have held on to their belief that attack speed scaling for the animation speed, the quickness of the skill, the feel of the skill is irrelevant, and they want it to be purely alternative scaling with attack speed, and that whether it is functional or not, it will never feel fun to play, and I've written it off, and it breaks my heart.
I said this before. I know Squid's not here right now. He's off doing something else, but he was playing Tempest Strike on stream like 2 weeks ago or so. And honestly, I'm with you, Flintler, because I watched him and it looked fun. It looked cool. There were like,
it's a great skill. It's like, it's like Wild Strikes, right?
Stuff happening. It's like, yeah, sign me up.
I just wanted to ask you real quick, Flintler, how many hours do you think you've actually put into playing around with Tempest Strike?
Specifically, hours of Tempest Strike.
Does this past hour count? Like we're thinking about it right now.
Can we include rants about Tempest Strike or just playing Tempest Strike, because those are vastly different.
Include
numbers.
rants. I'm in.
Let's take with rants. I'm in on
including
that
rants. I'm guessing 100 plus.
So when someone says like living in your mind rent free, does that resonate with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm paying rent to Tempest Strike.
Oh, I'm into it.
My biggest rant, if we're going to be talking about Tempest Strike, I'm going to take the time and do my mini rant. My biggest thing that I was so upset about is when they first introduced the ability to gain mana from other sources to Shaman. They had just introduced in the previous patch gaining mana on Rive and Vengeance and Smite, Faith and Order, right? So Time and Faith, whatever it's called, on Sentinel. And so they're like, oh, well, that worked out really well for Sentinel. Let's give it to Shaman. And the only way they gave it to us initially was on Tempest Strike. And the way they gave it to us was by neutering the skill. You specifically have to get the most out of it as gaining mana. You have to remove all of the theme of the skill. You have to reduce your chances as much as possible, eliminate the ability to proc the spells, and then you just use it as a horrible mana potion. and it making me so mad because there's so many ways they could. The theme of the skill is I'm smacking someone with my big staff and spells are shooting out the end. Why are they not playing into that theme? And this whole time I've been like, you could make, if you proc lightning bolt in the last 4 seconds, you have 1 additional base mana regen. And then you could do that for all the 3 ones and they could stack. And maybe you could get to, 11 base mana regen. And it's because you built mana regen and you're playing Tempest Strike. And because you're using Tempest Strike to proc skills, you're getting more mana regen passively as you play. You could do so much to just build into the theme of the skill. And instead they're like, well, if you like pausing your game for a second every 2 seconds, you can have some more mana.
I'm so into it. That recommendation sounds great. Yeah, what a great recommendation. Like, if you've done this thing recently, base mana and then increase mana regeneration. Yeah, sign me up. The whole thing sounds good.
And then the second part of it is you get to a point where you're playing Tempest Strike, if you're actually trying to use it for damage, that you can't build melee damage. There's hardly any increased or multiplicative damage in the tree. And you realize I'm spending a full global cooldown using a skill that does not even guarantee to cast a spell. when any spell in the game, as long as you push it, it will do something. And you're putting yourself at risk because you can't do it quickly. You get hit by telegraphs that you would otherwise be able to get out of, and it might not even do anything.
Well, if you build attack speed, then you would proc that faster, right? So you've actually touched.
Sorry, my headphones broke for a second. Can you repeat the question?
You touched on something that has been going through my mind as well recently. So during this past weekend, we had like the hardcore mage tournament. Static Orb was unbanned, so naturally I played Static Orb. And you mentioned that in order to use Tempest Strike the way that it is used, you need to take out all the cool stuff. So I kind of felt the same way while I was building Static Orb as well, where in order to get the functionality that I wanted, I had to remove, in order to play the skill the way that I wanted, I had to remove things away instead of add additional things, right? So I wanted
specifically with the charged ground.
Yeah. So I wanted to do like the charged ground stuff, the big mana build. You take this mana node, you take this mana node, right? And one of the mana nodes says it removes Pierce from it, which means that like when you shoot it, it hits the first monster, and then the charged ground, half of the charged ground has nothing on it because it originates at the monster and it doesn't pierce at all. Whereas if it did pierce, you could shoot it in the middle of a pack, and the charged ground is instead hitting every single monster that's in the AoE, right? And it got me thinking.
What if you make it lob?
Well, then you don't have enough skill points to click on everything that you need. So
okay.
You have a good point, but like my criticism is this: why do you have this default functionality and then we're removing stuff out of it instead of like have a smaller default functionality and then add this and add this and add this?
I think that's a good point. I think that comes down to personal preference. Their design style and for skills, and the tree of skills for many of them has risk reward type of design built into it, where to get something really strong, you give up something else. Like if you want more projectiles on Fireball, it's going to cost you more, right? There's a downside to getting something, and whether the downside is worth the upside is probably something they might need to continue to tweak on skills like Thorn Totem.
I don't mind the mana cost. I want the cool functionality. I want the mechanical changes to stay on the skill. Like I don't want to remove my ability to make Tempest Strike shoot out a bunch of particle effects just to have mana.
Well, speaking of changes, guys, what do you guys think? Going back to the crafting system, what do you guys think of the Glyph of Chaos, since it changes stuff?
Oh, I love it.
We have like 1 minute left of the podcast, and we're going to talk about the Glyph of Chaos. All right, so
yes,
Flintler, are you looking at it?
I am.
All right, can you tell us real quick what the Glyph of Chaos does? This is one of the new things, right?
Yeah, randomly upgrade an affix into another affix you don't care about. So it says it modifies the outcome of a craft when upgrading an affix, so you can't use it on a tier 5, obviously. Randomly changes the upgraded affix to a different one that can spawn on that item. Cannot change prefix to suffix and vice versa.
So it doesn't overlap with what you already have. If you have percent health on something, you can't also roll into another percent health. But like this is a chaos orb from Path of Exile, but it's only on one modifier.
You're not going to lose the ones you want to keep.
Yeah, it doesn't roll anything else, and it has to upgrade as well. So it's going to roll from a 1 to 2, and then a 2 to 3, and then a 3 to 4. But it's going to spin what the modifier is each time. I love it. I think it's really nice.
It could be really busted too, as far as like upgrading something to a tier 5 and getting something really, really good, and being able to wear that for a tournament, having that nice little RNG.
That's on prefixes. Can you get class specific prefixes?
Undoubtedly.
Out of if you have no shards of something, all of a sudden you get a T5 of something you didn't have shards for. Oh, that's gonna feel great.
And then you can remove it, and you'll still get shards out of it.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Wait.
And you can spend 4 removals to guarantee you get all of them if you really want to.
It's technically true. So the Glyph of Chaos, I try to keep track of things that are going to be Twitch clips. Try to keep track of things that are going to be like, holy crap, big emotional moments, right? So it's kind of funny. So Path of Exile, well, I'm not a broken record, don't worry. Path of Exile in PoE 2, they're going to take away 6 links. And like 6 linking an item in like 1 fusing or 10 fusings is a big emotional moment. And that's kind of been the cornerstone of, I guess, one of the cornerstones of Twitch clips for a long time. Like, oh my God, I finally got a 6 link, or I got super lucky with this fusing, and now I have 6 link shabs, for example. So like those high emotional moments, it's kind of a big deal. So when PoE 2 comes around, you're going to be 6 linking skill gems or something, but it's not going to have the same like, oh my God, look at my shabs, it's now 6 linked. So with the Glyph of Chaos, you're going to see clips of people upgrading something from a 3 to a 4 or a 4 to 5 and getting like exactly what they were looking for. And that's going to be like a huge emotional moment where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just got this lucky. And the fact that the Glyph of Chaos has that baked into it, I think is a win. I think that's a great touch by EHG.
I agree with the sentiments. Well, guys, we are out of time. That's going to do it for us on last week of Epoch. I'd like to thank you, Flintler, again for being our guest tonight.
Appreciate you having me.
Coming on. And from all of us here at Last Week of Epoch, we'll see you guys in the next one.